Welcome to the Pointy End. I'm Keith Sutherland. Today my guest is Yvonne Wrigglesworth, a candidate for the City of Greater Bendigo elections coming up next year. Welcome.
Good morning, Keith. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on board. Now, the first question I have to ask is, well, there's two questions. One, why you want to stand for council, and why are you putting your name out there some 17 months before the next council election, which is to be held November 2016?
Yep, so a lot of people are asking that question, Keith, so I'm glad you also asked. Look, I'm an extremely passionate community participant. I have moved to this particular area in central Victoria just somewhat over, almost 7 years ago. And since then I've been extremely active. I feel like I've had the best experience in seeing exactly what the power of community leadership and participation actually brings to a community. To me, this feels like a natural step. I feel like representing a ward would be the most absolute honour to be able to see this community action come to life.
I notice, and obviously the most favourite ward for you is Eppalock Ward, because you live in Axdale and you're very active. Now, can you just give us a bit of a brief history of your working life, what you're doing? There's lots of committees and I've read through them, and you're a very busy lady for running a household, being a mother, working, and now you're going to take on council as well, plus all the other committees that you do.
Absolutely. So the committees and the types of work that I've been involved in have been something that I've always identified with a passion. So they need to be aligned with my beliefs and my values, and I need to see a value of my participation. I've managed to meet the most incredible amount of people that have also brought so much, I guess, rich experience to myself and my family's life. I've got a really supportive employer, so I like to think that, you know, in the future, if I need to rebalance my priorities to take on such a responsibility as a councillor, I think that I'll be able to do that with some aplomb. I am busy. I really relish being busy. It's sort of part of my persona. People who meet me often would comment that, you know, if Yvonne's not busy, she's sort of unsettled. So, yeah.
Well, I always say that give the job to the busy person because they get it done, and that's so true. Now, there is a passion because there's lots and lots of committees and that you are involved in out that Axdale side of town. It's not just Axdale committees, there's lots of other things. But why do you think that you want to get on council? Is there something that when people they've usually got an axe to grind, or there's something that they think council are not doing correctly, or is there something in that area that you think you can bring some expertise to?
Well, one thing I'm absolutely passionate and actually skilled and strong with is community leadership. I don't have any particular agenda because I feel the role of the councillor is to broadly represent the ward and its residents in an equal and fair manner. I won't pander to individual agendas. It's important that I understand the voice of the community and represent it strongly. I'm very experienced in a governance setting, and that's something that I think that good governance and strong decision making needs to come back to council. We need to absolutely engage with our community like never before. I relish the opportunity to be able to potentially bring some new ideas for community engagement to the City of Greater Bendigo.
I noticed also that you come with a really community-minded background, but you also your professional development memberships maintain graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors, associate member of the Australian Institute of Community Directors. So you don't come with just community. A lot of people come with just community, but you come with a business background as well, which is really beneficial. And as you mentioned, governance, and that is really an important aspect of business because you would have gone along to that meeting that the AICD did the other day, where the speaker mentioned that there should be a delineation between the executive of council and the councillors. And realistically, that should be the board of directors. And I've spoken to Mayor Cox about this in the meantime, and he said, that's something that I'd like to get to. So I dare say that's something you'd be passionate about.
Absolutely. And look, with my own career experience, there's nothing better than working with a great set of board of directors. When you've got that particular governance setting and group singing, amazing things can be realised. We need to be able to harness the energy and the potential of those who work in the executive at the City of Greater Bendigo to make strong decisions that are directed towards the community's priorities. Yeah.
Okay. Having said that, you've just seen the latest survey results, and they're a little bit down on last year. And I know the Chief Executive said, you know, it was a mixed bag, but it really was a mixed bag for some of the things that were coming out. That it was mentioned the overall performance was a rating of 60. The state regional average was 58. Okay, and we've slipped back in all areas. City scored 63 in 2012, 13 and 14. So we have come back from 63 back to 60. Do you think that we are sort of losing traction? Are we focusing on the wrong area? And is that part of the reason that you want to stand?
Look, we can never ignore satisfaction surveys and results like this. I think they're very telling and also not unexpected. I look at the areas...
Sorry, can I just pick you up?
Yeah.
Why do you say it's not unexpected?
I think that when you hear the community tones and the discussions, and in many community forums that I'm part of, I hear people expressing their dissatisfaction in feeling that their communities are represented. So potentially they feel that there are specific agendas being pushed to the highest levels, and that's not reflective of what their community wants or needs.
Another interesting aspect of that was that we rated fairly poorly with the over 65s. So my age group, I hate to admit it, over 65, seems like that they feel like that they're left out. I know that there's a lot of comments around town that we do an amazing job with the arts and culture and things like this, but obviously over 65s feel like they're being left behind. Is that your perception with dealing with the public and particularly from Axedale Way?
And look, and I think everyone's very cognizant that we're not only an ageing but living longer. I mean, I've worked in health my entire life and I see this exact situation. As our population lives longer, we suffer with more chronic disease, and we need to realise that service delivery, even to the smallest parts of our city, smaller towns such as Heathcote, needs to be considered and well serviced to cater for this population. In the survey, Keith, they also mentioned that women were quite dissatisfied with the levels of engagement. I'd be agreeing with that. And then we'd look at areas such as Heathcote feel completely disengaged. Yeah.
Well, when you look at the budget was passed, we had a draft budget up to last night. There's $63.22 million to be spent on capital works. Great. That's the roads that you're talking about at Axedale and everywhere else that needs to be done. And there's $166.46 million in services, part of the operating budget. So there's a lot of money there. It seems like that we're not really breaking through. We're not getting traction. As you say, the ladies and older people, the services, maybe they're ill-directed or people are not availing themselves of some of these services. Would you be suggesting that that would be part of the problem, that the services, there's a lot of money there, but maybe people are not realising that they are available to them?
Absolutely. I think it is about raising the profile of how the council and how those services are available and delivered. I don't think everyone expects a brand new footpath out of the front of their house or a new gutter, but to be aware that those services are being delivered in areas of need, and are those opportunities promoted to the community and understood. I was very pleased last night, for example, when you referenced infrastructure, that the decision on the 50-metre pool was voted in. I think this is something I do believe strongly, that that's an investment for our community's future. I don't believe that everyone wants a 50-metre pool in every corner of Bendigo. I think people are very, very capable of understanding that the benefits of having a fantastic facility in reach is something great for Bendigo, and they're willing to commute. I want to see better public transport links that'll get people there from the outlying places such as Heathcote, Elmore, the further lying places. That will be fantastic, yeah.
Part of that debate last night was Councillor Campbell suggested he wanted a 25-metre pool with the hydrotherapy, with the cafe, with the gym, with all these other things. But Ballarat has just built a new pool that budgeted for 17 million, built it for about 15 million. And that's just a pool only, it doesn't have all the ancillary things. But at the end of the day, are we over-servicing the people? Because we've got lots of gyms in Bendigo. We've got 4 hydrotherapy pools in Bendigo. 3 of them are probably underutilised. Do we need the 5th one? Now, you said you're in health, so you obviously work in health. Do you think that there is a necessity to have a hydrotherapy, because that adds to the cost and that gives us the $30 million. Sure, there's 15 coming from the state government, but there's still the other balance of the money has to come from ratepayers.
Look, from the health perspective, any investment in that type of infrastructure I think is worthy. I think the concerns over the amount of development around such a complex could be staged. There is no reason that we start with the minimum being the 50-metre pool, hydrotherapy, and those ancillary services, they can be staged. You're right, there are other areas that we can access those facilities, but I think you need to think big to create those visions. I'm a believer in having a vision that we can build around and not limit our population growth, our population needs and uses.
On the final point on the pool, because there's lots of debate and that's in the papers today, what's your thoughts on the demolition of the leisure centre?
Look, the leisure centre had a lot of use but was ageing. That's my understanding, was that a few people that, you know, had spoken quite clearly that it either needed a really good makeover or it needed to go. I probably haven't got a particular viewpoint, but I do believe that the pool facility will be great for Kangaroo Flat. Very
diplomatic. Now, finally, how do you tend to balance your family, your work, council? Because, as you said earlier, you are a busy person, you like to be busy, but taking on the role of a counsellor, you're talking about 25 to 30 hours per week, and you get a wonderful sum of $26,000 to be a counsellor. Admittedly, you get some expenses on the top of that, but at the end of the day, $26,000 is not a lot for putting in 25, 30 hours. And if you're as busy, you obviously are as busy, as you say, because I've read all your resume. Basically, it's finding the time, but you've got to balance it because your family, you've got, I think, a 9 and 11-year-old, correct me if I'm wrong. So it's a lot, and a household to run, work operations as well.
Sure.
So you're a busy lady.
I am. Look, you know, I don't think anyone, well, I'd hate to think that people put their hand up for what this might mean from an income perspective. I'm doing it for the passion that I see that there's a need for someone like myself to do a good job at representing the area that I've chosen to raise my family in. Yep, give it to a busy person, they say, as you referenced before. And I look at, if I'm successful and elected, then I will reevaluate what I can and can't commit to, but council priorities will be absolutely my #1 focus. So I feel confident with all the work that I've done, and my career success has always been about balancing and making the right choices in that space.
Well, Yvonne, thank you for appearing on the Pointy End today. Really appreciate it. It's great to see someone with passion. Only fairly new to Bendigo. I've only been here about, what,
7 years?
7 years. So it's not a long time, but you've obviously made a big impression. Living out at Axdale, wants to be part of council, and it's great to think that people of your calibre are putting their name forward 17 months out. So I wish you well for the next 17 months, and I dare say we'll have you back on the program sometime between now and the next election, of course.
I'd be delighted. Thank you for having me, Keith.
Thank you.
Thank you.